Howdy.
Hello.
How's it going?
I'm just counting down the moments until the next chapter of life begins.
What date is it again?
Huh?
When do you go again? Mid-September?
I leave in less than 2 weeks.
Nice. And I was seeing on your story the other day how you were saying that my body's literally showing me it's time to go.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable how sensitive I am. And in 2 months, just the one thing after another. And I'm not someone who really, again, attracts problems into my life, right? Because I've worked a lot on my mindset. I just don't really have that in me. And it still just feels like I'm just batting things away one after another after another.
And what kind of like problems is it?
Right when I got here, I had an allergic reaction to these like mites, like tiny bugs that you can't see. That
Yeah.
was intense, and it wasn't affecting anyone else. And it was from our couch. And my brother sits on that couch every single day, writing for hours. And I would just get these bites. I have not touched that couch since I discovered it was the couch. So I've been here for 6 weeks, and it's like I don't really have somewhere to just sit and hang out. But my brother's like, well, I don't know what you're talking about, so I don't know what there's to do about it. um, it was that, and then I started getting every now. It's happened like 3 times, but I've had these really bizarre headaches. I'm also not someone who gets headaches. Um, and then I've noticed also like I feel like inflammation coming back in my body, um, which is just always like I've learned time and time again, it's environment, it's environment, it's environment. Even now I almost have this kind of like head cold that it's not turning into anything, but I just feel that it's there. So I know my body's fighting something. Um, and I know there's also mold in the room that I'm sleeping in, or there's always been a mold problem, and it's like overdue the time in which they would need to treat it again, and it hasn't been done. And I'm like, just, just
Yeah. And mold's no joke. That
no,
stuff, it's
no,
actually no joke.
no, no. So
Oh, it's so interesting. The inflammation piece as well. It's like the body literally does communicate so loudly, actually. And
yeah,
the majority of the time, we're like, oh, it's just inflammation. It's never just inflammation. It's the body's way of going, something's
yeah.
wrong. I was having
And
this
I
exact.
have exactly, and I have gate 19 in my design sun. And if you use like the gene keys kind of interpretation of your incarnation cross, the gate that's in your design sun is often really, really deeply related to what keeps you healthy. And 19 being all about sensitivity. And it's an attuned sensitivity to my environment, even to the foods I eat, which again, like I'm gluten intolerant. I can only the only dairy that I can like really process is like raw dairy, things like that, where I'm like, oh, it's so annoying. But also I'm like, it's just this sensitivity. Let it be a blessing for you, because I'm always getting this like instant feedback. And yes, it's a little bit annoying, but
Well, it is. And I
what's it
mean,
do?
it's tribal too, right? So
Hmm?
it's also like 19 is a tribal gate too, right? So it's like if you're not in the right environment, you're also not connecting with your full line with the right people and stuff as well. True.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was explaining this to my partner because he's a strength, mobility, fitness, nutrition, like holistic health. That's the space that he also lives, breathes, works in. And it's such an interesting thing to explain, especially now because I'm finally so sure of it. My whole life, when I would hit these points, I would try to find the the problem through like I need to work out more, or
Yeah.
I need to eat differently, or I need to take a different supplement. Like always, almost trying to attack my body in a different way. And I was explaining this to him and I was like, I know it sounds kind of wild, but through experience, I've just learned it again and again and again. It's my environment and
Mhm.
it's like alignment. If I'm in a state of there's like inner tension and resistance, like my body is going to show me. And yeah. And so again, in this current state, it's like I know I have a fixed time here. And it's been a matter of like, okay, just let it be. Do whatever you can to like stay grounded and just keep reminding your body that this is just temporary. Just like stay with me. Stay with me. We're getting out of this. But for example, when I go to Portugal, I it's like all any resistance problems melt away and they can melt away like that quickly.
Yeah, I'm like that with Australia at the minute. It's just like, what?
Mhm. It's wild.
Ah, what you said there about the sun gate gave me like, you know, when we get the human design breakthroughs and you're like, oh, you really gave me that then, because 23 for me is simplicity. And it's like, as soon as I make things too complicated, my whole body is like, nah, anxiety, contraction, inflammation. It's like, it's simple. Eat simple, move simple, be simple. It's not that deep. It's so true.
Damn. And what's your determination?
Mm,
Isn't it closed or
I don't know. 1 second. I get mixed up between the thingy ones. Determination. Where am I looking on that on the breakdown?
yeah,
Uh,
digestion, maybe it's listed at depending on what you're using.
showing me all these new things in neutrino. I don't know. It's giving me all these like mechanics conditioning stuff. Have you seen the
Whoa.
updates?
No.
What? Fast planets, medium planets? I don't want to know. Oh, here we go. Determination direct light. Sorry, determined direct
Oh,
light.
right. Right. Okay.
And that I really do feel, because
Yeah.
eating outside, being even here, like I like that the sun sets later in England and stuff. But I'm the same with Bali. It's like I don't know how much more communication that I need from like my environment and my body, that like that is not the place. I get these really heavy legs and I'm like, something's wrong. Don't get it in Australia. Don't get it in England. It's like that climate and the wetness and the damp now, it's too much.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what I get here as well. I'm like I don't want to go outside. I also just feel so disconnected from nature. I feel even though it's a beautiful island in so many ways, it's just not where I am right now and the level of effort to go and find it and oof, oof. And I feel like every single podcast I somehow end up talking about environment and how environment's so important. But guys, your environment's really important.
No, it is. It really, really is. And it's like how many people tie themselves to certain places when, and I mean, astrocartography is beautiful for this too. Like, I think it's such a amazing system to use when you're like, why am I drawn to certain places? And then you have a look and you're like, oh my God, like I've got all of this in this place. And I think sometimes there are cycles of life where you're not supposed to be in the right environment to discover certain
Mhm.
things, or you're
Yeah.
meant to look. I mean, my Saturn and my Pluto's in Bali, so is my sun, but I know I'm meant to be in Bali for more. And this is where right now I feel like I'm just stagnating, because I'm like, I think I've done my time. And so, and I was saying to my mom the other day, it's funny because my one thing keeping me in Bali was community. And now I only have a handful of people left because everyone else is leaving too. So it's like, well, actually, like, why am I here?
Yeah. It's funny, Brooklyn and I talked about this in our episode, which by the time this is released, will also have been released already, and spoke to that as well because I mean, her and Dane are leaving or somewhat leaving Bali too. And I think everyone that we really know has had that push away from it. But it's also because Bali's changing just as quickly as we are individually changing.
It is. It's, I, my mum even said this to me the other day. She was like, when people recommend. Like, they're like, "Oh, your daughter lives in Bali, should we go?" She's like, "No." Because when I went, it was different, and now it's not like that. You can't
Yeah.
find a nice beach anymore unless you drive outside of the. But anyway, yeah, it's just so interesting as to how your body quite literally will be like, "We're done here." Like, it's
Yeah.
time to move on.
Yeah. My partner also asked me the other day, he was like, "Would you consider doing a retreat in Bali?" And in his eyes too, it's like Bali's still this hub, and him knowing that like, oh, because you've lived there, because Ruby's still there. And I was like, not in a million years. And it also just goes to show, again, just still how oriented so many people are around like doing things because that's what you do, and glamorizing certain things because that's what they see online. And how many people have this perception of Bali as this exotic wellness, like because they see these influencers, they see these curated events or experiences that are exactly that, curated. And Ruby and I had a conversation the other day as well because she did a breathwork facilitator training to get this like extra level 2 trauma informed certification to just, add to her repertoire and up level her skill set. But the retreat itself, oh my God, it was your classic just Bali, like, again, she got the training that she came there for, but everything outside of that, it was like you just are doing things because that's what you do. And how much also of that was around getting content. Like she could feel that like the motivation behind the people leading it was to create the perfect experience like superficially so that they could get the content so that they could market the next retreat that they do.
And you being in the industry of retreats, like, it's easy to spot those pieces, right? Where you're like,
Yeah.
"Hmm,
And Ruby, the whole time, she was just like, it's about your client over content, client over content. And her reflecting as well that like how unsafe she felt in that space because of the way that it was held and facilitated. And just going back to the idea of like doing retreats in Bali, it's just like, I will never do something because that's what people are doing. In fact, I'm most likely going to do the exact opposite.
yeah, yeah, yeah." I mean, I've been invited recently to a few events and stuff, and I mean, you know me, I'm a bit of a hermit anyway, but it's like, there's this whole thing on at the Astana, and there's this, and there's this, and I'm like, "No," and I used to say like, "Oh, sorry, I'm busy," but now I've started saying like, I'm just not attracted to the energy in those spaces because I've rarely found a space like that where it is in integrity. It's like, it feels off. And like you said, like these retreats, most of the time you can pretty much guess the itinerary because it's some kind of like when I see the water ceremonies and stuff and everybody's at a waterfall like screaming into the abyss. I'm like, bro, like fair enough with the water ceremonies. Go with a proper, Balinese priest and go do it like that. But and then I saw like another thing the other day where I don't know if you'll know the waterfall, but there's that tiered waterfall in Ubud. And I saw a video where they were queuing down the whole waterfall like steps. And then there was someone at the waterfall just taking videos of people like at the waterfall and these like Instagram, the shot, like on Nusa Penida where it's like, get the shot with the dinosaur hill. And it's just like, man, no. And Bali itself, I mean, there's riots in Bali and Jakarta at the minute because of like salaries and stuff like that. The whole island is also like, enough. We've had rain all year. It's like you can feel it. I think that's what I've got mad anxiety these days in Bali. And I'm like, I think I can like feel the contraction of the island. It's too much. And it's sad because it's like, yeah, people are like, oh, Bali. And it's like, you could have said that 5 years ago and I would have agreed with you. But I don't agree with you now.
Yeah. It's a sad reality.
Yeah, but a perk is that we get to choose where we go, I guess. I will say though, coming back to, I'm not moved here, but coming back to the UK this time, it's really highlighted how much I need this structure and routine. I only really realized it today. Like I went in the gym this morning and I was like, why am I feeling so ungrounded? I was like, because I'm living out of a bag and I'm hopping from different bed to different bed to different people to all these different conversations, like moment to moment. And it doesn't serve my body to be this way. And I had a chat with Ben the other day because he said to me, he was like, I think you're going through a bit of a midlife crisis, but not a midlife crisis, like a middle life crisis. I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, well, he did it to me like really, really line 2, like line 6 vibe, like sat me down. I was like, I went through this when I was your age. And he's like, I think you're still really attached to the travel version of Bee that really likes to hop around and has a lot of energy to go and socialize, and like this fun version of you that almost was like pre-motorbike accident, and you want this like travel style life, but also you don't enjoy it like you think you do. Like you like being at home cooking dinner, like you love a little garden and like da da da, da. And I think you're shifting, you're maturing, but you're also like not okay with the fact that you're shifting so much. And he's right, like it really landed for me where I was like, yeah, you are right, because the most fun times for me is like cooking dinner and chilling. That's it. Like I don't actually, I think I want all these things, but I actually don't. I want a nest.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, you can see that in your design, you know?
But
But isn't it so funny how you still you have, in order for anything to really stick, you have to have the experience, obviously, and you're a third line. So you're going to have to go against it again and again and again to get to that place of really understanding. But I think that goes with everything.
yeah, yeah. It's like it's almost like you have to fight it first to then realize. I think I'm gonna be on my deathbed when I'm older, and it's gonna be like it was always about simplicity. It was always about like the small mundane pieces in life, and I'm realizing that now. For me, it is just about having space, having time to do whatever I want to do, but it's about the mundane. Like I find the joy in those simple moments. It was so funny. He's like, I think you're just maturing, and I don't think you're okay with it.
He's such a little like wizard.
I still say things, and I'm like, did I what? You know? And it's funny, and I'm sure you'll resonate with this because I said to him, because the podcast with him on like did so well, had some amazing feedback, and I was like, you should maybe start something where you share your perspective because you've got great insight on men and that kind of topic. And he's like, yeah, but when I'm in a conversation, it comes so naturally. But when I'm just have to do it myself, and I was like, mine too, because it really is that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it has to be called out.
Yeah. Do you know if he has a strategic or receptive mind?
He got 3 left, and I think he's probability view. He's got left environment. No, he has. Yeah, left environment, left perspective, left awareness, and right environment. Sorry, left digestion. So almost a quad left. Yeah.
So interesting. But yeah, as I was telling you before this, I was weirdly, I don't know why I thought about this yesterday, but I thought about my first ever human design reading. And
Mm.
I've talked a lot about my like story of finding human design, kind of being in this place of a rock bottom, being in this corporate job, and having this like aha moment listening to a podcast. the podcast I was listening to, the guest was Jenna Zoe, who, I mean, bless her, because I think she's a huge reason why human design has blown up in the way that it has, because she's been the pioneer in the like wellness space, right? Where it's like she's a 2/4 emotional projector like me. And having that network with the right people got her on a lot of the big podcasts, the expanded podcast, Almost 30, Balanced Blonde, like again, these podcasts that were doing wellness like podcasting before it was super oversaturated. And she was a guest on all of them. And I listened to all of them, after I found that first one. And on podcast, you're often giving just that very basic surface level of like, these are the different energy types. These are maybe some other things that you can find. And she has a really good way of simplifying things and using, taking human design themes, but making it accessible to the kinds of people that would be listening. And I ended up, because she was blowing up at that time, but not quite enough where she had stopped giving readings. So I booked a reading with her. She had like a 2 or 3 month wait, maybe a 3-month wait list or something, but I was able to book a session with her. And so I was waiting and I was waiting and I was like so excited for this. And it was done over FaceTime. And I remember I was in my kitchen at my parents' actually, because I think I was working remote that week, or we didn't have to go into our clients. So I spent the weekend in Chicago and had just stayed and worked there from the week. And I remember doing it at the kitchen table and like I'm writing notes down and I still have the notebook and I'm reading my notes. And so much of it, especially now looking back at it, was so I think half of the reading was her just already saying what she had said in the podcasts.
Mm.
And there was such a lack of personalization in the sense that she didn't ask me anything about me. The only thing that I remember sharing was that like, well, I know I'm in a corporate job, after she's talking about like the role of the projector and how we should be working. I was like, well, I'm in a corporate job and doing all of this. And I remember her just kind of just validating of like, yeah, that's not really aligned for a projector.
I can feel that.
Yeah. And I also want to say, like, when you're introducing someone to human design, you have to start with the foundations no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
But what I've found is anyone who is coming into human design, or really anyone who's coming into any personal development, healing modality, it doesn't matter what it is, we are all operating from our not self, whether we want to admit it or not. The not self being, the part of our mind that is attached to our conditioning, to the expectations, the pressure, the identity, the stories that we've been taking in our entire lives. And we've been running the show from there instead of from our, intuition and our design. So everybody's coming to us from some state of misalignment, and they're coming to us because they are looking for answers. But what's so important to realize is like, we're talking to that not self. And the not self likes to be in control, is only comfortable when they're in control. And in order to be able to get the mind to soften to the concepts of human design and to mechanics, I think there has to be a really gentle way and I think we just have to know how to speak to who's in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember sitting there with Jenna Zoe at the time and hearing what she was saying and having no idea what to do with it. And having no idea how. It was like going to a palm reader and having someone say, you're destined for this. You're going to have 3 babies and this, and this, where it's like, okay, but what do I do with that? And one thing I will say is I think for projectors especially, it's a lot harder because you can really give a generator strategy and authority, and
Mm.
that will help them immediately. Whereas for a projector, you explain what it means to wait for an invitation. And there's a lot of work that has to happen before invitations are coming in, and to even working with that. But it was just a very interesting reflection to have, because then of course I start thinking about more than just even human design, but anything in the wellness world, and seeing why I've had so much resistance to different practitioners, different practices. And it's always stemming from that lack of understanding or personalization. And yeah, I just think, especially, I mean, human design is the science of differentiation. And the fact that there are so many people that are now, again, because it's trendy and cool, they're going and they're trying to say, okay, how can I learn all of this as quickly as possible so I can be a human design reader? And so they're picking up all the surface level information as to, okay, what are the different energy types? What are the different strategies? What are the different authorities? And then again, wanting to do that information striptease sort of experience. But if you don't understand why that is the way that it is, why a generator waits to respond and what the underlying mechanics are underneath that, then again, you can often end up just doing more harm than good. And all that to say, I still have a lot of respect for Jenna, because I think that her mission was was different than maybe what my mission is. And for her, I think it was more to like have this bigger, broader spread impact. And I will say, it was like the reading was enough to at least keep the information in my brain till I would get to a point of digging deeper myself. And I do think that she's been an entry point for a lot of people, but just an entry point.
Yeah, foundational. Isn't her thing cross of explanation? I'm sure yeah. So, I mean, I find that a lot of cross of explanations as well, especially early doors, myself included, there's a complexity that comes with it where you're explaining, but it's just regurgitation. It's like you're saying it, but it's not able to have that full landing moment for people until you've actually almost embodied it and seen what it does. Then you can deliver the explanation in a way that allows integration.
Yeah. And this is funny because I think we spoke about this the other day when we tried to record an episode and couldn't. Because on the other side, like what I do also respect in Jenna is she also being very deep in this broader holistic wellness space. And she studied the Kabbalah and
Mm.
understands like it's not just human design. And she'll speak about this too. Like when you listen to her talking on the podcast, it's like they're talking about human design as its foundation, but then they're talking so much more about mindset and healing and inner work and shadow work and all of these things. And and I do really believe that Jenna is someone who is embodying her design and walking the walk, and I trust her because of that. Whereas I've seen on the other side of people in there's kind of like the pop human design space, but then there's like hardcore human designers that are like study human design as like the Bible, and it has to be received in this way, and they throw a lot of shit on like the Jenna Zoes and stuff. But I've seen so many of them go off the deep end, off fucking deep end, because they've mentalized this system so much without any of the embodied integration of it. And embodied integration cannot be found through human design alone. Human design is a mental system. But then you do need to go and, like, I speak all the time about breath work, but whether it's breath work, plant medicine, any kind of somatic work, we have to understand that like our bodies are holding so much from the world that we've just been entered into. And there is a lot of work that has to be done. Otherwise, we just stay up here. And again, the mind is so strong that it can take any piece of information and manipulate it. And you can do that with human design. And you can get human design to tell you the stories that your mind and your ego want you to hear to reinforce that narrative. And that's the trickiest part. We have to be able to separate the two, but that's why it takes time.
Yeah. This is why I always say when I teach human design, I don't like some of the terminology of human design. I will be honest, like I don't like it. I don't like that the line 3 is called the martyr, because your brain, your rational brain, and most people are geared towards the negative approach, the victim mentality. And a lot of the time that's because that's how we're raised, right? So let's go to how that's gonna make it dramatic or whatever. And so, okay, I learned I'm a martyr. And that, what does martyr mean in the definitive term? To sacrifice oneself for others. Like, that's not what the line 3 is about. Like, yes, and I see so many line 3s that I've worked with older people than me, where they end up in this like bad shit always happens to me loop. And then when someone comes along and says, well, you're in line 3, so actually this makes sense because, and it's like, no, that doesn't have, no, that doesn't validate that your life sucks and that you just gotta always fail at something and always be going through some kind of shit time. No, it means that you are here to learn through different experiences, and actually you get to be like a trove of wisdom in the right circumstances, and actually you get to learn from shit and actually never do that again if you're wise about it. But then you could go both ways. You could look at that and say, well, I'm just, especially a 3-6, well, I'm just doomed to always be in a loop of experience and a loop of always failing. And so what you focus on creates more. So you'll focus on that, you'll create more, and you will become a martyr. But then if you were to see it and take the logic and say, okay, well, how does that play out in my reality for me? It's a different story. I'm like, it needs a rewrite. I call it the experimenter, not the martyr. Yeah. I'm like, that's what you're going to see on Google. I'm going to call it the experimenter because you're not a martyr. You're just someone who's going to have a lot of embodied wisdom, and that's beautiful.
Yeah, I completely, because words are spells. Mm-hmm. And we have to understand that. And you know, this is where I think it's important. If you do decide to step into the world of teaching, I think for us, it's like there's a responsibility of, if you're going to study a system, study the system and understand for us, I think it's so important to understand why things are called what they are and really understanding what's underneath them. But then once you have a really strong foundation of understanding, then you get to, again, decide in working with specific clients, where are they on their journey and what is it that they need to hear? And then being able to decide what's going to be the most empowering, what is going to be the most fruitful way that I can impart this knowledge upon them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people come to human design wanting to know it all, right? But it's like, I mean, you've probably experienced this. My readings are nothing like they used to be, because I used to do that. It was like, okay, so do you know about human design? All right, this is what human design is. Okay, now these are the types. You're this type. And then I'm going to go through each piece. And I was exhausted afterwards. This person leaves the reading like, my brain's just been blown, but also like, what? Now it's like you could spend an hour just talking to someone about being a projector, if that's what they need.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny. I just started working with a new mentorship client, so we're working together for 3 months, and it's, you know, more of that whole holistic container. And one thing we've been really speaking about is just transference, because transference, I think, is one of the best ways that we can work with the mind and start to understand how our conditioning and open centers like are playing into our life in the moment. So she has need motivation. We're not talking about need motivation because we're at a place where it's like we're still in the baby step. So we're talking about your not self. That's your transference, right? And so she has fear transference. So underneath almost all of her not self sort of tendencies is fear, this crippling fear. And so really being able to hone in on that fear and just deconstruct it. And the thing that I've been bringing in, or that I recently brought in because she was reflecting on, she recently quit her job at a certain startup and is kind of like in this place of like, on one end, it's crazy to see how like strategy and authority are actually working and stuff is like coming to me. And now that I've created more space around myself, and on the other side, there's this fear that is so present that just comes in like a wave. And so much of the work is just being able to um, acknowledge that and to just be able to say, oh, that's fear. That's my not self. What is bringing me into fear? What can I do to kind of reroute it? And did you ever do much like internal family systems,
In design?
IFS? No, like IFS. It's like more like a psychotherapy sort of system, but it's parts work. Maybe you've heard of parts work.
Work. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's funny because I was giving her a reframe about like, okay, but fear also, like, let's not demonize fear because this is going to be a part of you that you will never escape. It will always come back because we're never going to be perfectly 100% aligned. We have to change the relationship we have with fear. And again, think of it as this separate part that it's here because it's your mind thinking that it needs to protect you. It's your mind thinking that it needs to be in control. Fear is showing up as a sign of like scarcity and it's coming from your open centers. But let's try to give your mind a different task instead of taking the fear and thinking, oh, I need to act from this now, or I need to fix this now. Let's have your fear show up and give it a new role of like, okay, what can I do to come back to my body? What can I do to come back to my joy? What can I do to come back to what's something that's going to bring me satisfaction? And giving the mind another task, because if the mind doesn't have something to do, then it is going to just ruminate and come back into our transference and the fear is going to come back up. And I really just find I'm like that is when human design can become so potent, is when you can have a broader understanding of like the experience that someone's in. Also like holistically speaking, and even for you, like in business, right? It's like you use human design as a framework, but then there are other factors to also take into account, like people's circumstances and situations. And
It's brilliant. It really is. And like, I love that you're using the transference in that way because, like you said, with fear, it's not going to go away because ultimately it's a built-in piece of it's an instinctual part of our system that when it's actually leveraged efficiently, it does its job properly. But the problem is that we're so logic-based and we're attaching fear to all the things that we didn't have all these outside things that now would trigger that. And our instincts getting confused. And so when you can understand, oh, I'm feeling this, but actually it doesn't necessarily mean that this is something I need to, and especially if she's growing and she's quit her job and she's moving into different things, that natural, there's always going to be fear when there's something new when you're growing. So instead, oh, it's a symptom. It's not the whole picture.
yeah, but it's so important to know that symptom, because otherwise, if you don't know, like, because that's that telltale sign of like not self. This is not what and most people, if they don't know that, their decision making and the action that they're going to take is going to be founded on that.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why no matter what, anyone who really is in the human design space and knows it will always say, come back to strategy and authority, come back to strategy and authority, always like hammering in the basics. Because what strategy and authority does is it doesn't necessarily heal the mind. The mind is still going to do what mind does, and it's still going to slip into transference. We're never not going to be taking in energy from the world around us. But at least strategy and authority protects us from acting on all of that. It's like the guardrails.
Yeah. It is, it really, really is. I mean, I get schooled on strategy all the time because and I'll know immediately after I've pushed something or I've acted too quickly. I'm like, "Yep, there's another little piece of information that my brain needed to show itself proof that this is not the way for me. I need to wait it out. I don't push, I don't initiate these things, or I need to wait for clarity." Every single time, but like you said just now, if I didn't know that, I'm just gonna be, because 'cause I'm so headstrong anyway, I'm just pushing myself through life, and then I'm wondering why everything's backfiring in my face when actually it's a little tweak, but this is where the integration piece comes in, because it's easy to say to someone, "Well, just wait to respond or initiate," but
Mhm.
you almost have to be in the not self and see what it's like to understand that and do the opposite to see, oh my God, actually, this is why these things are happening. And now I have a reason for it. So let me go see what happens if I honor this side of me. Oh, life is way more fluid this way.
Yep. Yeah, it all comes down to awareness, and I do it too all the time too. Sometimes I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna do this anyways. I know that it's probably like, I probably didn't wait long enough, but I'm gonna do it." And then everything is information, and there's value to that. And as with anything in life, like, you don't wanna take anything as absolute. That's when we get into extremes. And I love that human design is framed as an experiment, and we have to understand what that means. An experiment means like you play. It doesn't mean that you have to be like rigid and dogmatic about things and black and white. Like, just play and have an extra layer of awareness around what you're doing, why you're doing it, how it's feeling, what's the information you're taking in, inputs.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think the more you learn, I'm sure if anyone listening to this is also, educating themselves in human design or is a reader, the more that you learn, I think the less that you end up like, how do I say this? I share so much less now in my sessions and so much like I spend so much more time on each thing because the more you know, the more you realize how little like information you need at each level to
Yeah.
then give that away. Actually, the less you know with human design at each stage, the better you can integrate because your mind isn't so full of like, ugh.
Yeah. This is why I love working with people in, like, longer containers. Like, I really, really love it, and because you get to just go so deep, and the things that, like, come up during sessions that compound on one another.
Yeah, yeah. I said this morning, and she was like, "I'm in my head." I was like, "Yeah, like we've not even started yet. Your questions will come." I'm like, "Honestly, you're gonna have so many questions, but they'll come. We've not even scratched the surface yet. So just hold on right now." But that long-term container, yeah, it hits different because I think also when you meet someone and you're, in a reading, you're giving them that like pattern interrupt through the data. But then when you work with someone for longer, it's like you get to know them, you get to see people's patterns, you get to see where they're like embodied in the not self, you get to see all these pieces and that touch point of integration where you can't just get that in a one-off session always like that. And it keeps the knowledge in their orbit too, because the amount of people I see do readings and it's super inspiring and activating, and then you go away and it's like, "Oh, I've forgotten that now," because it was
Yeah,
one session versus 3 months. You literally integrate a new pattern
yeah,
to your
yeah,
being that only happens over the course of time.
yeah, yeah. I have another one-on-one client who I'm starting with this week, And we just had a like mentorship or like an interview call last week. And she was explaining as well, she's in her 40s, she has kids, and for years and years and years, she's been knowing that she has work that she wants to do and knowing that like there's certain patterns and things that she knows doesn't serve her. And she did have a human design rating, and it was that typical, like, someone kind of new to it where it's like, let me write you this 50-page blueprint and just give you all the information,
Yeah.
which again, you have to ask yourself, it's like, why would someone feel the need to do that? And it's probably undefined heart needs to prove themselves. Let me prove by how much I know and how much I can show you so you can find value in this, instead of seeing what that person needed to hear. And she said, like, remembered being in the session being like, yeah, this is really cool, but then leaving and not knowing what to do with it, right? And for her, like, it's been patterns of, okay, I'm going to then listen to every podcast and then talk about doing this thing, but then never actually doing it, and like this constant procrastination. um and I think that's so common for so many people. And what I kind of told her as well, it's like that procrastination is a overlying symptom of a much, much deeper belief that you're not worthy, that this isn't going to work. And if it doesn't work, then you're just going to loop back into that unworthiness. So it's easy for you to procrastinate and put it off because you don't trust yourself and you don't
Absolutely.
trust the work. And that just signals like much deeper work that has to be done than just throwing information at you.
Yeah. 100%. That's such a good one with the procrastination, because it shows up in so many different ways too. Like, it shows up either in the avoidance, so you're doing something, so you're absorbing or whatever, but you're never actually taking it that step into the action, for example. Or what I see so much in business is you're doing just enough to call it action. But for example, you post 3 times a week, or you've got your bio up with a link to sessions, but you've never mentioned that you've got sessions, or you've never, and it's just enough to say, I have a business and I'm doing it, but it's not enough to bring you the results. And so you keep yourself in a loop where you're not going to get the results. But then you're like, well, why isn't my business working? Oh, there's the information overload, which was me for the longest time, where it's like, I'm learning, but never putting it into action.
Dude, entrepreneurship is like the gnarliest personal development accelerator ever.
Do an episode on my launch this month, because launching with hormone imbalance and whatever the hell is also going, I think I'm in, like, I don't know what I'm in, but I'm in some kind of void right now energetically. Like, it almost, you go through cycles of like the depression-y cycles. I'm definitely in one of those right now where I can't label it depression, but it's like a lower energy. And trying trying to launch when you're in that, just do life. It's the most beautiful journey ever, entrepreneurship, but it's also like, my dad said this to me this morning. He was like, I'm not interested in being self-employed. I like the security. And I was like, you know what, bro? Fair play. But in my life, I can really understand this, because
Yeah. I mean, and I think it's different if you're not the brand in a way. Like if you're an entrepreneur and you're selling like a product and your face is nowhere around it, like it's like you can really then just have a strategy, you can have your marketing plan, you can have your team, whatever. But when it's you, because and it's hard I think it's even harder for us because of how much we know.
yeah,
And like understanding of how like our energy is an extension of what we're creating. And so if our energy is feeling off, we know the impact there. And so it becomes even harder to just push through because that's what you need to do for a business. And there's also this interesting fine line of like, there are certain things that you have to do if you're running a business. And you can't airy fairy love and light your way through that either. And you can't just say like, I'm just gonna manifest it, and like if I'm in alignment with myself, like money will just come. Like no, there's actual just work that has to be done. And so it is such a tricky balance to find.
Yeah. It is. It really is. Yeah. And I had a conversation with a friend the other day, and she said to me, she was like, not everyone is meant to be an entrepreneur. Like, not everyone can do it. And I was like, I agree, actually. In the past, I think I would have like fought you on that one, but I do agree because above everything, it's self leadership, it's self discernment. And I love, I've been following recently Leela Hormozy. I don't know, I feel like she's got guilt motivation or something because like there's super resonant there where a lot of her posts are like, to be an entrepreneur, you've got to get really good at boredom. You've got to get really good at repetition. You've got to get really good at being disciplined. The ones that stay in the game the longest are the ones that are okay with literally like being bored, doing the same thing day after day, stay in the game, being lonely. Like it's not easy. And then things like, those that have won are the ones that stayed in the game longer than anyone else deemed realistic. And it is because it's a literally true test of determination, your discipline for your vision, your ability to like grow and withstand uncertainty. And like this is the lesson I've had this month. It's like I have this strong expectation that like if I have a certain result, then the next time it'll be better. And I got schooled in like, oh no, you think it's gonna be do 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 do. No, that's not business. You're gonna grow, and then you're gonna have like one of the moment where you're like, what happened? And that's gonna be the bit. But also, how are you gonna see that? Are you gonna take that personally? Because that's my biggest lesson. I make that mean something about me, and it's just the data.
Yeah.
And a lot of people do that. They make it mean something about, and with the guilt motivation, it's like, gotta fix it, gotta like maybe and in the past I would have pivoted. But it's fucking tough. I think this is also why mentorship is so powerful, because I know for me, like having someone in my corner that I can be like, I hate this today. Oh my God, like I feel like I'm doing everything wrong. And then being like, you're running a business. This is how it goes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone who is successful has a whole handful of support in their pockets. That's the truth. And you know what? This is also something that I find very important, and that I find if you were to take any, imagine you're starting a restaurant or you're opening like a brick and mortar business. Think about the level of investment that is required, hundreds of thousands of dollars, just to get that off the ground. And then it's like, it takes time and time and time and time before you're even chipping away at that debt. It's beautiful when you're in the coaching industry or some sort of like service, because the level of investment can be much lower. But then people wonder why they don't see any success, because they're just thinking like, okay, I can spend super little and I want to make a whole lot. And then they're just doing and they're doing and they're doing without any proper foundation, without the right knowledge, without the right resources.
Yeah, 100%. And then it's like, well, what? And I think this is where the online space does a terrible job of painting the picture that it takes time. And I mean, this is business and this is personal development. Doesn't matter what industry you're in. It's like even personal development work, you can sign up to a program or a mentorship or whatever and be like, I want to learn how to embody wealth. I want to learn how to learn my human design. You are not going to know that straight away. Like that's not going to, you've got years and years of patterning to work through when it comes to business. I wrote this somewhere the other day where it was like, if you went into you wanted to be a vet and you went into a vet place and was like, okay, like, can I have the job? They'll be like, okay, where are your certifications? Where's this? Where's that? Now, the good thing is you don't need to be certified to do work online or whatever, but you do need to have experience. Otherwise, you become another one of those people that is just teaching information, sharing information with no real embodiment behind it. And I promise that will crumble. If you haven't learned the lessons you need, and I think sometimes, I know I tell my clients this, it's taking longer for you because you're doing it in integrity. And like I have this is my biggest thing. Why am I still like in these moments sometimes where I feel like I should be there by now, wherever the fuck there is, by the way. And like I should be, and I get really frustrated. And I'm like, but every single lesson you learn, you integrate, and then you get a client who needs that exact lesson every single time. Every single time. But one thing I will never sacrifice is my integrity. I will never ever teach. I could go on my stories tomorrow and say, I'm going to help all of you make 50K months next year. I could go screenshot my Stripe account, which says 200K full forever, my gross number, and be like, that was my 1 year salary. I could go do that if I wanted to. And I bet you we could do a little experiment. I would get more clients. But I'm not going to do that because I can't promise those people that thing. And I think this is where that nuance is with these spaces where it's like, it's frustrating because you see it working, but the main thing people come to me with is like, I don't want to be icky. I don't want to do the sales thing. I'm like, but you're a business. You've got to learn to sell, but you don't have to sell that way. You get to do it your way. And this is why human design is always at the foundation. Let's find the way that feels good for you.
Potent.
I feel like we raised the frequency along
Yeah.
we started off on two, and it was like, what?
Yeah, we were like, well, what are we going to talk about today? Oh, well, I don't know. I guess let's just start talking.
Every single time.
Every time. Oh, well, I wish you the best in this chapter.
I think the beauty of it is like, I don't know, this time around, because when I went through my big, deep, dark chapter a couple of years ago, I've not really had a lower cycle since then. And again, it's this like, well, I thought I'd never be here again, but there's no reason for it right now. I'm just in an ebb. And I think when you can see the pattern of, oh, well, of course, like I've been in a massive bloom phase and now I'm going into hibernation a little bit and I'll be back in a bloom phase, and actually let me ride that wave because that's what's bringing the next level of momentum. I think
Yeah.
and again, it's just time that where like you experience it over and over and you're like, oh, I'm here again. That's okay.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And then you just take it with stride. And again, I say this because I feel you and I'm in my ebb too. But I know the flow is coming and it's just a matter of weeks. My environment changes and sweater weather will be upon me and everything will just go back to a good place.
Oh, I'm so excited for you. Yay.
Yeah, I'll have lots of updates, I think, in a few weeks
Hell yeah.
for this little podcast community.
Chat and have an update. Erin's landed in her new environment.
Yeah.
How is she feeling?
All right, my love. Well, you have a beautiful rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. And I'll see you when I see ya.
Bye bye.